All right. This was it? I can't imagine why. But anyway, I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. We'll start with our priorities. Director Snyder, would you please read our board priorities?
All right. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff, and to direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impacts of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you very much. Director Klum, would you please read our mission and vision statements?
I would. You know, if our student school board members were here tonight, I would ask them why we read these things before every meeting. You know, sometimes it does become kind of rote when we read these things. Some people in the audience, you know, aren't really paying attention at all. They're joking around. But seriously, these are very important aspects of our what we are all about as board members up here and what we do on behalf of the kids in our district. Our mission statement is to enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. And I think that mission statement is decades old. Director Cromartie, former Director Cromartie, and myself worked on mission and vision statements probably about 8 years ago. And our vision statement is something that came about through working with our community. We looked at it, and the board challenged us to come up with a vision statement. We said, well, we can work something out just amongst ourselves up here on the board, or we can go out to the community and see what it is that the community really wants from their schools. We did that. We went out to some 17 focus groups. We went out to realtors, went to United Way, went to faith groups, and talked to them about what it was that they wanted for their district. And we came up with something that was an amalgamation of what they had put together, brought it before the board, and the board moved a sentence or a phrase here and there, but for the most part accepted what it was that the community wanted for their kids in this district. So our vision statement, which took a considerable amount of time to try to actually hone down, is education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, our parents, staff, and community to answer the question. And sometimes I wonder if that should be ask the question, what if? So it's an open-ended, it was intended to be an open-ended statement, not saying anything with finality, but rather that we will continue to ask what it is, what can we do better for our students, not being satisfied with what we currently have now, but always questioning what else could we do. And I'm proud of that statement, and I hope that it lasts for a good long while. But it's going to be up to the new board to make that decision. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for that. Move on to board reports. Are there any? Director DeSalvo.
I had the opportunity to be at a football game a couple weeks ago. I think it was Weston Central playing, but they inducted 3 of the district coaches. These happened to be West coaches at the time because they were the home team, but into the Circle of Honor at Brady Street. And that was a very nice ceremony. It was Coach Wessel, Coach Harrington, and Coach Johnson, Ruth Johnson. And it was really, really well done. Very nice, good representation. A lot of students and family there from the community, so it was really, really nice. So kudos to Paul Flynn.
Thank you. Any other board reports? All right, we'll move on to communications. We do have 2 open forum requests this evening. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We have two of the requests, and tonight I'll allow 3 minutes for each. We'll have Kirk Coburg first, and followed by Ken Crumwitty. And so when you come up to the microphone, please give us your name and address and tell us what your thoughts are. Kirk?
Alrighty. From Walcott, East James and Walcott. I had 2 kids graduate from West, one just recently and last year. I've been aware of the fact that there has been a coaching in softball of a resignation that took place rather shortly, and then a new hire is going to happen even shorter yet. I think that, in my opinion, the tenure of that, there needs to be some change made. I'm aware of the fact that that might be a stepping down process that has been addressed. I think there needs to be some change. Like in your mission statement that Richard over there said that, what if it's time for some change? 30 years of tenure, and if it's proceeded down to another family member, it should be changed. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kirk. Ken?
Good evening. Ken Crumwitty, 33 Madison Circle, Davenport. I'm speaking to you tonight as your elected board member to our District 2 of the Mississippi Bend AEA. I have been your representative on the district board of the AEA for the past 3 years. And tonight, you will be considering my continued representation on this very important board. Our AEA serves 21 school districts in this area of eastern Iowa, and Davenport is the largest district. And I feel very strongly that we need to have Davenport folks as representatives on this board. Our Iowa AEAs serve school districts with many support services, and some of those services are special education services and support staff, media services, professional development for superintendents, administrators, teachers, very involved in the teacher leadership program, and support staff, early childhood identification, and child find. As with our local districts, our AEAs in the state have experienced serious reduction in funding, over $150 million in the past few years. And this has had huge impacts, not only on the AEAs, but on districts, and especially large districts like Davenport. So I will be honored to continue to work to represent Davenport at the AEA table, at the state level with legislators, and our Iowa Association of School Boards Resolutions Committee, which I represent the AEA and Davenport because I'm your representative. So please consider me as you vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. And thank you both, Ken and Kirk, for coming to our meeting and offering us your thoughts. We'll move on to upcoming events. Director Gosa, would you please read those for us?
On September 12th, school board elections will be held. Polls will open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then Mary put the link in here for the auditor's office to find your precinct and your polling location. September 18th, the third Monday instead of the fourth Monday at 6 p.m. The annual organizational regular meetings, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. And then September 19th, 5:30, Lizak, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Director DeSalvo,
Yes.
Director Klum,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Snyder,
I abstain.
and my vote is yes. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of bills?
Mr. President,
Director Klum.
I move that the board approve the following resolution regarding the approval of bills. The resolution is as follows. Resolved that all claims presented to the board, having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of August 24th, 2017 through September 6th, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, call for the vote. Director Klum,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director DeSalvo,
Yes.
Director Snyder,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just started this week with my third pass through the schools, and I've been impressed from day one when my first pass was really just to walk through and make sure people actually came to work and that students were in the rooms. But now as I go in the classrooms, it's just very impressive that they're down to work and they're doing the teaching and the learning that they're supposed to. I was in a kindergarten class this morning, and they had their tablets out, and they were doing the ST math. And if you can remember, we had the demonstration that it takes 13 symbols to get that going. And there was only one kid that was having some trouble in the whole class, and the rest were logged on. To me, that's pretty amazing. In another kindergarten room, there was a girl starting her letters, but she had finished the whole alphabet, and she didn't know what a Z looked like. So together we worked that out. But, you know, kindergarten is school, and we need to realize that. They're expected to know those things, and those that don't, we certainly catch them up. And the other thing that impresses me, in the elementary schools, you've got the physical education, the music, band, orchestra, and art. They're having a good time. There's a lot to do, and those are joyous times for them. But I like to see that when they're in the rooms, we're down to business, and then we have the other things that make school fun to be in.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion regarding approval and plans, approval of plans and specifications for Sudlow rewiring project.
Mr. President.
Director Snyder.
I move that the board approve the administration's recommendation on the specifications for the Sudlow Network Refresh Project. President, that's you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, we will now hold a public hearing on the Sudlow Network Refresh Project as published in the Quad City Times on Friday, September 1st, 2017. Anyone wishing to, excuse me.
It's not.
Let me finish the opening of the hearing, and then during the hearing, Mary, can you help him? So I'm going to start over. We will now hold a public hearing on the Sudlow Network Refresh Project as published in the Quad City Times on Friday, September 1st, 2017. Anyone wishing to speak on this project, please step forward to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any additional discussion on this matter? Okay. Mary, where are we on that? Where are we on getting him on? Well, yeah, but I don't want to hold up the vote unless. I understand. I didn't know if it was going to be seconds or minutes or.
I didn't think it was going to be long, but for some reason it's delayed.
Okay, so are you comfortable, Director Mayfield, in voting? Okay, so we've had the motion to hold the public hearing, and I declared the public hearing closed, and I had asked for any additional discussion. There was none, unless you have any. I didn't want to. Okay, so I'll call for the vote. Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes?
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Klum.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Mayfield. And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. I have a motion regarding approval of candidate for Director District Number 1 for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Board of Directors.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move that the Davenport Community School Board approve and hereby cast the weighted vote of the board for candidate Ralph Johansson for Director District Number 1 for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Board of Directors.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'll go ahead and say a few words. First off, I want to say that I didn't have any prepared remarks, but I really appreciate Mr. Crumwoody coming and talking about the AEA. I think the AEA is really, really important. He gave a lot of specifics and statistics that are important, and the AEA board does a lot of really good work, and some of it is legislative advocacy. Of course, the AEA provides a lot of resources for all of the districts. I think that the relationship between the AEA and the Davenport District has been getting, from my perspective, better than perhaps it was in the past. And I think that that relationship is important because our district needs some of those resources. And so I wanted to advocate primarily for the AEA. On behalf of myself, I've enjoyed the opportunity to serve there. Sometimes their meetings are call-in meetings that only last about 5 minutes. So I'm trying to learn from some of the things that they do as well. So that's all I have to say. Any other discussion? Oh, Superintendent Tate.
Just to make clear, we're voting on two of these tonight, and both can be elected. It's not one or the other.
That's correct. Thank you for clarifying that. The first vote is on Director District Number 1, which is the one that we're voting on right now. After this, there will be another motion for Director District Number 2, which will be for Ken Crumwoody. Those two candidates were the only two that signed up for those two districts, the way that I understand it. And so Davenport will cast a weighted vote based on all of those districts that are in District 1. Thank you for the clarification. Director Kluhl.
Yeah, I'm just curious how many director districts there are in River Bend, or in Mississippi Bend.
I'm not sure. Ken, do you know?
I think there's 9, but I'm not sure.
That's what I was going to guess. And I'm not sure. Anybody else?
And
oh.
one covers what area?
I can't even tell you. It's a group of the districts here within the MBA AEA.
So it's not based on where you live.
There is a requirement for that. District Number 2, I think, Ken's is more of an at-large, isn't it?
No.
Or no?
The way it
Why don't you, can you come up to the microphone, please?
AEA splits up all these districts, so there's actually 3 people who represent the Davenport district, but The other person is not up for election. He not only covers part of Davenport, but also Bettendorf, Pleasant Valley area. So Davenport really is split up into 3 different areas, and Ralph's area is District 1. I live in Northwest Davenport, and so I think my area goes down to like Locust Street. It's really a chopped up map, but it crosses over into communities. Davenport, of course, with the largest population, has the largest number of representatives on the board. That's why I feel very strongly that Davenport needs representatives from Davenport. If no one steps forward to be on that board from Davenport, it goes back to the AEA board, and they can select anyone from any of the 21 districts. And so I feel strongly that this district always needs to have Davenport representatives.
Anybody else? Director Gosa?
I guess I just had a question how this whole process works. It says you submitted your paperwork, but does that just go to you because you're the board president? Nobody else gets it, or? I'm just curious.
Right. I'll explain as best I can. So I think it's a 3-year term, if I recall properly. And I think that Ken is correct that having representation from Davenport is important. The board makes decisions on what's going to happen with the AEA and with the districts. And so there is influence and there is decision making. I don't recall who all participated in the last vote, but I had submitted my original paperwork back 3 years ago or whatever, got voted in as a board member. When this happened now, the AEA asked whether I would consider signing an affidavit of candidacy again. So it wasn't because I was board president, it was just because I was already on the board. And I believe that's what happened, Ken, with you too. And so there was an affidavit that had to be signed, and I have no idea whether they looked for other candidates or not. I don't know that part of the process.
I mean, I see that. I'm reading the letter. It said you had to have your forms in by August 15th. But I know I never got nothing before August 15th to see if I wanted to do that, or I don't know if anybody else did. But that's what I was curious, how does it get sent right here and then whoever gets it, or that's what I was curious about.
No, I think in that particular case, it's just that if an existing board member decides to, those board members that were up were asked. Other than that, I don't know if there's more information that goes out.
Okay.
Any additional discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Klum.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of candidate for Director District Number 2 for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Board of Directors?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I move that the Davenport Community School Board approve and hereby cast the weighted vote of the board for candidate Ken Cromartie for Director Number 2 for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Board of Directors.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Anybody? Okay, well, I'll make a comment that I think Ken is, you could tell from his comments at Open Forum that he was very well prepared. He has been, I think, an outstanding representative of the whole district, the whole Davenport school district, as well as a strong advocate in legislative advocacy, with some of the strong things that he does there too. And I think that we don't understand even some of the strong things that he does, especially with that. And his representation of the AEA and of the district is really important, I think, for our district and especially for the students that need these services. Director Klum.
Yeah, I agree with President Jay Hansen. It's a rather unique situation where we have Ken, who's no longer a school board member, but with the AEA still has the opportunity to advocate on our behalf with the Legislative Resolutions Committee, the Iowa Associations of School Boards. Probably a little known fact is that in our efforts to fund equality across the state, Ken was a very vocal proponent and perhaps largely responsible for getting the Iowa Association to vote that funding equality would actually be a priority for the Iowa Association of School Boards. So very thankful for what Ken has done for us, and I know that he'll continue to support the district through his next 3 years.
Thank you very much. Anything else? All right, we'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of contract with Solution Tree?
Mr. President,
Director Snyder.
I move the board approve the administration's recommendation on the contract with Solution Tree for $62,217.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director DeSalvo.
So as I read this, I understand they're going to classes for these days?
Yes, this is the professional learning community. We sent 150 or so during the summer, and these are people that weren't able to make it in the summer, but it is classes, and the Solution Tree has the paramount experts in the field right now. They're just really, really good, and so you can see the spread of people that are going and where we're taking the money from. Generally is from grants that are specifically designated for professional development.
Good. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Director Hayes.
Quick question. What is the acronym TLCS?
The Teacher Leadership Compensation System, that's the grant we've had going into our 4th year now from the state.
Okay, thank you.
So they have the lead teachers, the mentor teachers, the model teachers.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, call for the vote. Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of superintendent contract?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
it's recommended that the board approve the superintendent's contract as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Let me mark this. Is there any discussion? Director Kluhl.
Well, I just have to say that I've worked with probably 4 or 5 superintendents over my time here on the board, sat through a number of interviews with candidates for the board, and I certainly had high expectations for Dr. Tate as he came in amongst all the other candidates that we had, but I never anticipated that he would take the actions that he has taken on behalf of the kids of our district. When Dr. Tate first interviewed for the job, you'll recall this, he talked about spending a lot of time in the classroom, and a lot of us said, well, you know, superintendent's got a lot of responsibilities, and probably being in the classroom is not the most important, but he has made it important, and because he has made it important, his principals have made it important to be in the classrooms. And is just has, by his model, has just, everybody in the district has followed suit and said that our kids are important. It's important for us to be in the classroom and make sure that they're getting the best education that we have. But for me as a board member, the biggest thing that he has done is put his professional life at risk by saying to the Iowa legislature that I will not abide by a law that discriminates against the children in my district. He made that very clearly and has continued to do that to this date. And I'm proud, I'm honored, and I feel that this board is so lucky, this district is so fortunate to have Dr. Tate here. And had we been able to extend this contract beyond what we did, I believe the board would have done it. But I just want to say that Dr. Tate is probably the best.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I would just concur with Director Klum in that our district, our staff, our students, our community, we are so lucky to have someone like Dr. Tate in the role that he's in. His leadership, his guidance, his education, his perseverance, all of those things, those traits that truly put us above. And it really is an honor to be able to work with you. And I hope that when things come to wherever they're going to come to in February, that we can really, really rally the community support that we need to show how much we believe in what you're doing and we support what you're doing, and we will do our very best to keep you where we have you. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. I've just got a couple of comments. The Director Klum mentioned that if the board could have, it would have extended the contract. The terms of the contract have been extended to June 30th of 2020. So it's essentially a 3-year agreement. And it is true, the board wanted to give even more time to the superintendent. However, state law says you can only have a 3-year agreement with a superintendent. An additional item that I wanted to point out is that the evaluation occurred, and one of the requests actually that the superintendent made was that the board not increase his compensation. And so when you hear some of the comments that are made by the board members, the amount of respect that the board has, the community has, the district has, it's sometimes hard to accept that kind of a recommendation or a request from the superintendent. However, the board did accept that, and so part of the agreement is to not increase his base compensation. And I just wanted to point out, to me, that's part of the character, it's part of the leadership that we all, or that most people here do admire. So, yeah, I want to say thank you very much for all of the great work that you've done, Superintendent Tate, and I look forward to at least another 3 years. So, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Klum.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Mayfield. Yes. Director Snyder.
I was not able to be part of that discussion, so I feel I should abstain.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of the board secretary contract?
Mr. President,
Director Snyder.
I move that the board approve the board secretary's contract as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Klum.
I guess it's just fitting that Mr. Cromartie would be here tonight because I think he's one of the board members who helped find Mary for us and did a good job.
Thank you. Director DeSalvo.
I was not able to attend the evaluation, but I would just like to comment that Mary really takes care of all of us, as you can see tonight. She's always helping with whatever it is that we need, and she does an outstanding job, no matter the time of day, no matter what they ask. So thank you, Mary. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you. Anything else? Director Gosa.
I tell you all the time, Mary, I think you do a great job. I wish we could give you more, especially having to put up with Ralph, but I think you do a great job anyway.
Anything else? I got a comment. I appreciate all of the comments, including Director Gosa's, because Mary probably does really have to put up with me. And some of you that know me, I'm sure, can be frustrated with me at times. And yet it's a fun relationship that I must say that that I have with Mary as the secretary and treasurer. And there are things we probably talk almost on a daily basis. There are always things going on in the district, with the board, with elections, with so many different things. And I think that Mary has grown a lot while she's been here. And I think of her sometimes as having that almost, when you go back to MASH, the way that Radar anticipated what was going on with the colonel, you know, because Mary she'll know what I'm interested in, and I'll call her up, and then she'll preempt my conversation even, because she knows what has to be done. So I just want to say thank you also, Mary. I think you do just a great job, and I appreciate being able to have this continuing contract with you. Anything else? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Klum.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Get into discussion items. Director Snyder, you want to lead that?
Sure. We have 3 policies tonight for discussion that came up for review. The first one is community relations. There's only one change recommended by Gary. It's down in the section after the Roman numeral 1, where Iowa Communications Network, ICN classrooms was struck, and just leaving social media. And that was the only change recommended by Gary in that policy. Director Klum?
Any 2-year-old would ask the question, why?
I believe Mr. Sloat is here to answer just that question.
ICN has been near and dear. I've used it a number of times, and I know Iowa was trying to sell the network, but what's happened?
Well, we've done away with all of the ICN classrooms in the Davenport schools. There hasn't been a classroom for probably 5-6 years now. These classroom spaces were in very high demand, and they weren't getting a lot of use as ICN rooms. And the fact is that a lot of the education that was happening there could still happen for us, but not have to be in that classroom. And so I think what we've got is a more flexible and serves us better solution in that regard than we were giving up with the ICN rooms.
Can you do it desktop now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is the ICN going away?
It is continuing to change. It was so far ahead of its time that when the internet caught up with it, it kind of took over and surpassed it in many ways. The connections we had through the ICN are still valid and can be used for this, but the equipment that was used was pretty dated, and there are better ways to do it now.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
I'm going to skip down to the third one, because this one's pretty simple. 104.01 Community Relations in regards to honorary diplomas. There are no changes recommended. We had talked about this at our policy meeting, and administration wasn't aware of when this has actually ever even come up. And so to alleviate the discrepancy of offering it to somebody but not somebody else, as a board, we felt it better to just leave the policy as it is and simply say that there are no honorary high school diplomas from our district. Any questions, discussion, comments? Okay, then we'll move up to 501.03, foreign exchange students. There was a few things that were struck out. There was a strikeout. Actually, the number 2 is not struck, but at the end of that, where it says the district shall sign INS form I-20 only if students are being sponsored by a local service organization. And then there was another strikeout in number 6, assistant and family placement. And we had a couple questions as a board that, and they also changed it from age 16 to 18 to 15 to 18 to be more in line with our high school age students. But a couple questions that I'll defer to Mr. Schneiden that we had is, one, funding for exchange students. Is that paid for by per student head count fund, from the state?
We do not receive any funding from the state for foreign exchange students.
So who pays for that then?
Any of the costs associated with the student being in the district would be an expense of the general fund.
Okay. And so I can only assume then that is the reason why there are limits to the number of students that we allow to participate?
Yeah, class size, classes too, yes.
Okay. Those were the main questions we had as a policy committee, so open it up to any other board member questions. Dr. Klum?
I'm just curious about assistance in family placement. I mean, how does a foreign exchange student then find a family? How does that work? Because I'm in Japan, I want to be a foreign exchange student. I guess I would have anticipated the school would help me find. Do you know how that works?
I was just going to say, I know that Rotary, at least on the Illinois side, often sponsors students, exchange students, and they cover a lot of those costs. But I don't know if the Iowa side does that or not.
But finding a family for them?
Right, they do.
They do that.
They find a home.
We'll
and-
defer to Mr. Scott so that
Sorry.
there's no assumptions.
Yeah, the schools, we do not get involved with family
Placement.
placement at all. They have to go through the certified programs that are out there, and then they come to us at that point. And that's one of the reasons we took out the signing of the form, because we're not accepting them. They have to have all that done before they even come to us. And the
Director Hayes?
15, it was just changed because prior, I believe when this was done, was the ninth graders were not in the high school. So it seemed like 16, 18, not that we get many freshmen, but we just thought that 15 would be the change for that.
Director Hayes?
On item number 5, we omitted that we struck out, and counselor as well.
Any other questions, comments on these? Otherwise, this wraps up policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any administrative reports?
There are none.
Are there any board requests? We've got 3 board requests. First is an agenda item from Director Snyder dated today's date, 9/11/17. Agenda item, have a discussion on requiring students to participate in some sort of extracurricular activity at some point in their education. That's a description of the request. Why are you requesting this information or agenda item? Evidence supports that students who are involved in their school do better in school and are more engaged in their learning. The more a student feels like they are part of something, they put more into it. Is there a second?
Second.
When would you like this information or agenda item? As soon as the agenda committee sees fit. Okay, thank you. Next request is from Director Snyder, today's date 9/11/17, and agenda item, description of request. Have a discussion on the added benefits of the options available to us with board docs. Why are you requesting this information or agenda item? Is there something that we are missing by not utilizing all of the features of board docs? Is there a second?
Second.
When would you like this information or agenda item? Whenever you like, as this is my last meeting.
You got one more.
Yeah, he actually will be here next week, right? Sure. Okay, all right, good. Okay. All right, last request is from Director Johansson. Day of request, today's date 9/11/17. Agenda item, description of request. I'd like a discussion of safety, and then in parentheses it talks about employees and students, with respect to OSHA and other federal laws, as well as insurance policies and statistics. Why are you requesting this information or agenda item? Safety is very important for every person in our district. Is there a second?
Second.
And he didn't indicate when he would like this information or agenda item, so I will just put it up to the agenda committee's discretion.
He's talking to himself. Third person.
All right.
Director
That's it for
time.
board request. Oh, Director Klum.
Just a board report. I had not recalled
ahead.
it,
That's
if
all
I
right.
may. Tomorrow is board election day. And I've sat through board forums for our school board, Davenport Board. I've sat through Bettendorf's school board forum. There are a lot of candidates out there that really deserve your close look. Hopefully you've looked closely by now and you're ready for tomorrow. But what's more important than our kids? Probably not much more important than our kids. But if you're an economist, you would look at this and say that, you know, the school district's budget is a bit larger than the city's budget. So as a taxpayer, you have a responsibility, not only financially, but to your kids and the kids of Davenport, who after all will be the future of our city. So go out and vote. Amen? Amen.
Thank you very much for that. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait.
Is there a second?
Record second.
All those in favor say aye.
I
This meeting is adjourned.
wait.